You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then! I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a fault. Get to the chopper! Hanley! Just a flesh wound. I am the father.
And welcome back to the next episode of SludgeCast, which is number 11. Had a big blast doing episode 10 with Jeff and Bubba from Heroes Hangout, so a big shout out to those guys. It's always fun to hang out with them and talk anything relating to comic books, and we had a real fun time doing the Battle of the Legends that you fans and listeners have voted on, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And again, back for the 11th episode, and with me tonight, since everyone's probably already known, Matt and Tyler had to step away due to some conflict as far as schedules and things like that they just needed to back away from the show, which is good. That's fine. Love them to death. Going to miss them. But I got my co-host for Monster Movie Stompdown with me tonight. Also, my father, the Lorax, the Great White Yoda. Mark, say hi.
Howdy out there.
So Mark's going to be joining me tonight, maybe for a few more episodes to help me out as we get back in the role of things and finding a permanent co-host for the show. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is instead of having two constant co-hosts, I'm going to find just one good co-host that we can banter back and forth with and have guests, because it seems to be a very fun thing having the guests on the show. I know when we record the shows, we have a lot of fun doing it with the guests, and then it keeps it interesting and different for the listeners. You've always got somebody fresh, each episode, which I think is pretty cool. So we've got a fun episode in store tonight. We want to do something a little different than normal. We wanted to talk about live stream, digital streaming. Thought this was a very good topic that affects us pop culture lovers in a big way, especially with things like Netflix and soon to be Disney Plus is what it's going to be called. We're going to talk about how that has impacted us viewers of movies and TV shows, and where we've come from to where we are to where we're going with the digital streaming services. And then for topic 2, we're going to discuss something that's very interesting, because some of us either love them or we hate them, or there's ones we love or there's ones we hate. But we're going to talk about Hollywood remakes, because sometimes they're just absolutely not needed. Sometimes they are needed because it's a good movie that just didn't quite cut it when it originally came out, and it did 10 times better the second time around. Doesn't happen often, very rarely, but I thought that would be a fun topic for us to go with. And me and Mark have seen so many movies, we can just really ramble on that for a little bit. So, but before we get into that, we got some big news. So the first thing, of course, we're going to start doing this every episode. We're going to do a little bit of a newsreel for you. We'll have the jukebox every episode as well. Some new changes coming with the show as we adjust the changes as far as the hosts and things like that for the show. We'll make sure we keep you guys up to speed. Of course, we'll constantly put new things up on the Facebook page so you guys see what's going on in case you miss things that are happening in the pop culture world, especially when it comes to superheroes and comic books, because that's something we love. But of course, anything and everything. So let's kick into the news real quick. Just a couple things I really wanted to point out that's been pretty big in the last week or two. Venom has officially crossed $800 million worldwide, which moved it to number 5 as the top 5 highest grossing movies of the year worldwide. Now, domestically, it's number 6. 3 of the top 5 movies worldwide are comic book superhero movies, and that's Avengers, Black Panther, and Venom. 3 of the top 5 domestically here in the U.S. are comic book superhero movies, and that's Avengers and Black Panther, but Deadpool domestically beat Venom, but worldwide it hasn't. So Venom has really done a lot better than people thought, because it's been trashed by the critics. The fans love it. I mean, it's not been trashed by everybody, but it's not got the best critic review. I love the movie. I mean, it's not perfect by any means. As a hardcore Venom fan, there was a lot of stuff I'd like to have seen different, but they did extremely well. I felt being limited to a PG-13 film is what hindered it the most, but they did the absolute best they could with the movie. Now, you've not seen it yet, Mark, right?
I have not.
So definitely got to get that watch because it's a great movie. But since it's crossed the $800 million mark, I think it's done $822 million at this point. It's officially kicked off the Spider-Man spin-off Dark Universe that Sony's wanting to do with Morbius and Kraven, and there's going to be Black Cat, Silver Sable. There's a lot of up and coming for that, and of course another Venom. So since it's crossed 800 million, Sony has finally stepped up and said it's official. They have dated 2 sequels or 2 upcoming movies for the Marvel Spidey universe that they're doing. The first one is dated for July 10th of 2020, and the second they've stated is a sequel, so clearly it's Venom, for October 2nd of 2020. So we got 2 coming out that year. We can only speculate at this point, but I'm pretty much sure everyone knows, the movie coming in July, it's going to be Morbius. They've already greenlit the film. Jared Leto's playing Morbius himself, and then the sequel makes sense to bring Venom back for October again because it destroyed all the October records in 2020 for the sequel with Carnage. So it's going to be absolutely awesome. Because I'm ready to see Woody Harrelson as Carnage. That little teaser at the end, again, where you haven't seen it, but I'm sure everyone who's listening has. Man, when they takes him into that cell, and that guard calls Cletus Cassidy Red, I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. And just the way he talks and that whole scene, I'm just like, yes, cannot wait for this. So it's official. The Dark Universe, or whatever they're going to call it, that Venom has started, is going forwards, which is great. Much better than what Universal did with their Dark Universe, because it tanked epically thanks to the Mummy. So some little bit more news when it comes to comic movies. They also said last week, it looks like Marvel and Disney may have finally found their director for Guardians 3. It's not still been stated whether or not everybody's coming back, because I know especially Batista, he was not coming back unless Gunn directed. But then after some negotiations and talk and people calming down from Gunn being fired, Batista said he'll do it, but it has to be James's script. And so I think that's what they're going with, is James's script, hopefully, because the first 2 movies were great, so why not continue on with what James did? But they're looking to replace James for director with Travis Knight, which will be interesting to see because the 2 biggest films he's worked on is Coraline and Paranorman, which are both good films. Paranorman I thought was okay. Coraline was still fun, but just didn't capture the magic, because it clearly tried to capture the magic of films like Nightmare Before Christmas, and just didn't quite do it in my opinion. But it was still a good movie. Kids love the movie. But he worked on those, but his first live action film directing is the upcoming Bumblebee prequel to the Transformers films, which looks awesome. But hey, trailers look awesome, and sometimes the movie just sucks. So we'll find out. But please don't mess it up, because I love Bumblebee. You said Bumblebee's your favorite.
My favorite, yes.
Man,
yes.
My 2 favorite characters when it comes to Transformers, definitely Bumblebee and then Grimlock. But Michael Bay totally ruined Grimlock for me, in my opinion. The moment that you saw Optimus Prime riding on Grimlock, I was like, I'm done. I was already done with the Transformers before then, but when I saw that, I was like, I'm really done at this point. But Bumblebee looks awesome. It's going to be a prequel. I think it takes place in like the 80s. So we'll see how Travis does. If this comes out and it is really, really good, then I'll be more comfortable with him taking on the Guardians. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I was going to ask, is there any other stars coming out in the Bumblebee movie, or is it?
No one that I really know.
And sometimes I think that's better, when you're focusing on Bumblebee and not all these other characters that they have a problem with in the past with the Transformers movies, I thought.
Right. Well, hey, if you don't say stupid stuff, anti-Semitic remarks to a, Jewish producer. So, sorry. Anyway, yeah.
Exactly. So you definitely don't want to run into any more of those problems. I don't think the Transformers series needs to. But I think definitely I'm excited, ready for it to come out to see how he does.
Yeah, so. I think it's going to be good. And it really is. This movie's, it's going to be my make or break for Transformers films from here on out. Because, I love the first one, but, and I'll end up going on rant here, but Michael Bay he went from being an amazing director when he was with Platinum Dunes and Mark and Nispel and them when they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, 2003, wherever that was. When he was doing movies then, he was awesome. But then something happened, and then it was, the Transformers and the Turtles movies too. It's almost like the more bang and explosions he put in the movie, he thinks it's better automatically. And I'm like, no, it's not. When it comes to Transformers, when it came out, then he did Dark of the Moon, and then the last one, the Dark of the Moon was the last one, yeah. So he had Transformers and Revenge of the Fallen, and then Dark of the Moon. I felt like when Dark of the Moon came out, he listened to everything that everyone hated and made the whole movie what everybody hated, just to say, I can still make a blockbuster hit, and you're going to hate it, but you'll love it because I got so many explosions. It's like, I really feel like that's what his movies have become, which stinks because he's really good, but I feel like I don't know. I think his ego gets to him a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. So he still makes good movies, but he's just pushed me away for the only thing that saved Transformers here recently for me has been Mark Wahlberg. Honestly, if it wasn't for Mark in the last two, I don't think would have enjoyed them at all. So hopefully Bumblebee is going to be really good. I'm excited to see it and hope it'll save it. So
yeah, I was getting, I don't want to say bored with how the series was going, but when they talked about Bumblebee coming out, that kind of got your juices flowing again, for Transformers.
I think so. I really think they kind of ran Optimus into the ground.
Yes,
over 5 films, big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially when you have such great other characters like Bumblebee. Even Megatron I felt was underused, but that's neither here nor there. We can have a whole episode on them, but it's going to be good. So we'll see. We'll see how Travis does. If Travis knocks it out of the park with Bumblebee, I'll be comfortable with Guardians. So a couple other things real quick when it comes to the news. One is they finally cast, because they've been talking about bringing in Lex Luthor for the Supergirl series for some time now, because his sister's obviously in the show, but casting was a big deal. They finally announced who they're going to do to cast as Lex Luthor. And I don't know how I feel about this, but John Cryer from 2.5 Men, the dad, he was great in 2.5 Men, but I don't know that I can see him as Lex. Lex, Lex has got this smooth style to him for being so unbelievably he's an evil character. He's a villain. But he's so smooth with it. And I don't know if I could see John Cryer doing that, because I can't help but think of 2.5 Men.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And there was a picture of him when they released it of his head's shaved and he's got a beard. And I think without the beard and the head shaved, he kind of has the look. So it's not spot on with the comics, but you can't be spot on with the comic. But he may look the part. I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, time's going to tell on that one.
4th season. Season 4 is when he'll make his appearance, so we'll see. So moving on to a couple other quick things. Netflix, for those Pacific Rim fans out there, like me and many others, where Uprising did not do nowhere near as good as they were hoping. Excuse me. Where Pacific Rim Uprising did not do anywhere near what they were hoping it would do theatrically. We weren't going to see a sequel. Kind of bummed us out. Netflix has picked up Pacific Rim for an animated series, so that's pretty sweet. I can't wait to see that. They're going to pick up, from my understanding, after Uprising, but they will just continue on into a full-blown animated series, and I think that's great because what they've done with things like Castlevania has been amazing. Like, to turn that video game franchise into the 2 seasons that they've made it has been unbelievable. That last season was awesome. So good. Like that last fight scene between Dracula and his son was epic.
Don't spill it all out.
I don't want to.
I haven't finished.
You haven't finished it yet?
No,
oh man, the bedroom. It ends in a bedroom, man, and it's awesome. So seeing what they did with that and some of their other animated series that they come out with, the Netflix originals, I'm really stoked to see what they do with Pacific Rim, because that's awesome. Because we love giant monsters and robots. We can never get enough giant monsters and robots. So one last thing for the news, and we'll move into our topics. Swamp Thing has officially begun filming for the DC Universe. It is now underway. So I'm stoked because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Titans. And Titans has been... There's been a few moments where I've almost turned it off. Because I don't watch Luke Cage or that stuff, content-wise, because it's like, oh, no, they're going to push it too far. They thankfully haven't, but man, it's been intense. It has exceeded my expectations by a long shot of how good it is, especially Dick's character. Where he's at as Robin to where, I mean, like, episode 7 was last Friday. It was unbelievable what happened. I can't, anyone who's watched it, what's going on. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it and wants to see it, but yes, you've got the team and their focus is on Raven, but it's all about Dick Grayson. I mean, he's the one everyone's watching, and it's really, really good. So as good as it is, I'm super stoked that Swamp Thing's coming out, because Swamp Thing's one of my favorite DC characters. Of course, I love Man-Thing, and when we talked last episode, it was really difficult to choose between Man-Thing and Swamp Thing in the battle because they're such great characters. But I'm really stoked because Lynn Wiseman, who did Sleepy Hollow, is directing the first pilot episode, and then he's producer for the whole season. But you've got Mark Verheiden, who wrote for Battlestar Galactica, the newer series a few years back, and Daredevil. Him and Gary Dauberman, who wrote last year's It, the screenplay for the new It movie, they are co-writing the entire series together. So they're wanting to keep it as a horror type show. You got two of the best right there. The writer of Daredevil and the writer of It working together on Swamp Thing. You can't go wrong. And then throw Lynn Wiseman as a producer on top of it, you're set to go. Well, then to make it even better, let's throw in James Wan, who's directing the upcoming Aquaman, which looks, in my opinion, even though I'm not, I don't like Aquaman, like, never been a fan. It looks flawless. It looks like it could be the best DC movie to date. That last trailer, man, it looks good. So you got James Wan, and James Wan's got a big history in horror films with the Saw movies that he's done, the whole Conjuring universe, the Conjuring films, and I haven't seen, Annabelle or any of that, but the numbers all speak for themselves. He's executive producing the entire series. So it's set for success.
It looks to be good, real good.
Oh, I mean, already. Plus, it's like, oh, man, so you got all this great writers, great people producing the series to make it what the comic books were, which, I mean, they're pulling from Lynn Wein and Bernie Wrightson, who are the original creators of Swamp Thing. But to me, Swamp Thing didn't become Swamp Thing until Alan Moore hit the scene and started writing. Alan Moore's stories were the best. So hopefully they pull a lot from his stuff. But they got a great cast so far. But the biggest thing is where I think they went over the top, just to staple it in a little bit more how awesome this is going to be. They cast Derek Mears to play Swamp Thing. Derek Mears was Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th remake. He was the classic Predator in the Predators film that came out a few years ago. The dude's got plenty of experience when it comes to suit acting and also acting in this genre. So I think it's going to be awesome. So I can't wait for it. I'm super stoked, and 2019 can't get here quick enough just for Swamp Thing. Because it's really cool. Because I love Swamp Thing. I mean, I've got all 3 seasons of the 90s Swamp Thing show. Remember when he came out on Sci-Fi Channel?
Oh, yeah.
He was more of just kind of like a background character, but it was still awesome. I mean, I've got the Wes Craven movie. I've even got a lot of people it's bad. The campy 8 remake, Return to Swamp Thing. Yeah. Even though it's so good, like the Creedence Clearwater Revival soundtrack and that whole movie, I actually thought I liked it more than I did Wes Craven's, because it was just more fun of a film. But Swamp Thing's awesome. Stoked for it. So, all right. Well, that wraps it up for news. Again, we'll keep you guys updated with things on the Facebook page too. But those were some things we wanted to hit out, just make sure everyone knew was coming, and to look for and to see what you guys think. So, anything you heard news-wise you want to talk to us about, hit us up on Facebook. Send us a message. We'll reply to you pretty quickly. So, moving into our first topic, things will be pretty good, pretty fun. Digital streaming started with Netflix. Actually, Netflix started as a DVD rental service or a video game service. GameFly was one back then too. Remember GameFly?
Yes.
So Netflix really kind of kicked it off, and I remember, and what kind of stinks to me, it's nice to be able to do this from your living room, to be able to pick the shows that you watch. But there's something that's like Gavin, my son, your grandson, he'll never get to experience the feeling of walking into a Blockbuster or a Family Video, going to the video store to rent a movie. that's something nostalgic that's really missed. But it's very convenient, and it's now huge what digital streaming does, because everything's moving to digital services anyways. Netflix really kicked it off. Now, when Netflix came to digital streaming, it really started to affect cable. Especially stations like HBO and Starz and Cinemax and Showtime, all these big movie channels, they really got impacted because, I don't want to pay this extra money for my cable service to add these channels when I can just pay $10 a month to get Netflix and get all the movies I want. Anything I can think of. And then, when Netflix came through, then you started getting ones like Hulu. Hulu was just, they do movies, but they're very predominantly TV series.
Right.
Then other services like Vudu, Amazon Prime coming into the play, not just for, TV music for them as well, but, there's there's very few movies you can't find on Amazon Prime, because almost anything that they sell video wise, they've got the rights to do digitally to rent as well. So their library is vast. Then you've got DC Universe, just came out. There's all these different companies that have jumped on to digital streaming that is just such an easy access to your couch to pull these movies. It is the next big thing. Like I sit back and look at it and go, okay, so, because it's been a while. And me, I used to buy DVDs like crazy. Almost 2,000 movies in my DVD collection at one point. And, now I've whittled it down to, I've got enough Blu-rays to fit on one shelf, because the last several movies that I've bought digitally. Everything's digital.
Right.
I run my Plex servers, so I've got my own Netflix, so to speak. But everything's moving so far away from the hard copies to digital. It's like, man, are we going to eventually see the disappearance of the DVD, of the Blu-ray itself? 4K TV is great, but you can still do it, digital as well. It's huge. And now you've got Disney stepping into the game next year with the Disney Plus service, and they own Marvel and Fox and ABC, and you've got all this, National Geographic. They're going to put it all underneath one house, so that's going to impact a lot of them. Netflix will lose their Marvel contract. We know this. They're going to be pulling Fox's TV series, ABC's TV series. Like we watched Last Man Standing, and it's a Fox show.
Yep.
On what are we watching on
Hulu,
I think.
Yeah, Hulu's.
So is that going to move over to Disney? There's a lot coming with. That's going to be big next year when they hit. Really, really, really big, because they're going to pull a lot. I really think they're going to kind of monopolize the market, big time. But it'll be interesting to see. But for me, it's interesting, and for you guys listening, I know a lot of you guys are my age to my father's age, and in that realm there. We all remember going to the video store, and now we just sit on the couch and select it. It's a great thing, but it's also kind of like a bummer. You know what I mean?
Well, it was almost kind of like you thought, wow, what's this world coming to? The Red Box is going to put Blockbuster Video out.
Right.
Now looks like digital streaming is going to do one on Redbox, you know, because it's just wiping it out and making it so we're getting lazy as a society.
Oh, unbelievably.
Don't have to get off the couch. Just
pick what I want.
Yeah, it's right here.
So, and that's true. And I think there'll always be, because you're always going to have right now, at least for a while, you're going to have that market that's going to need the DVDs, I think, because they can't afford, because it gets expensive. You know what I mean? $50 a month for your internet bill. And then you're going to pay $10 a month for Netflix, $7.99 for DC Universe, $9.99 for Hulu. That stuff tacks on. And it's probably cheaper just to go to Redbox for those who can't afford all that stuff, just to pick the new movie up for $1. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that'll still be there, but it's going to be like Blockbuster. It's going to start to dwindle until everything, becomes more cost efficient, that everyone's got it. Because and it's convenient too, the digital streaming. Because I've got it on my phone. If I'm driving down the road, one thing to do when I go pick up, Jada, or pick up my daughter, for the weekends that I have her, I'll pop the phone up on the little mount on the car, and we'll pull up the Plex, or she will, because I'm driving, but she'll pull up the Plex or Netflix and throw a movie on. We watched most of Dragon Ball Super driving together. You go on trips with families, you can just throw it up on your player,
right there. Yeah,
it's so much easier and more convenient, and it's huge. And to me, it's great, and there's so many perks to it, and it's going to work out. I mean, for us as the viewers, we're going to get what we want. We're going to see what we want. It's going to be there, at access one way or another, whether it's on Disney or DC Universe or Netflix or Hulu or Vudu or Amazon Prime. It's, we're going to have to pick what we want, but it's going to be there for us. I just feel like the laziness. There's just stuff that you lose, man. I can just remember still going to Blockbuster and getting, man. I remember going to Blockbuster and renting Mario Brothers 2 for the Nintendo. Like, that was awesome. I was so excited to go to Blockbuster. It's like, yes, or we'd rent VCRs at some point. Don't have to anymore because we've got 3 VCRs here and 6 in storage at Mom's house for parts. But you miss that. There's something different between. That's just awesome to me, going into the video store and just looking through, covers especially. How many movies have we watched just because of the cover?
Yeah, that one looks good. Let's try it.
It may be awesome. It may be terrible. I remember one movie found at a video store. I'm thinking of it was called, Extro. Remember Extro?
Oh, yeah.
That cover was wild and crazy. Is this going to be a good movie? Not the best, but it was wild and crazy. Yeah. But because of it, I rented Extro 2, and it was awesome for a B-sci-fi movie. I loved that movie. That was great. That's, or going and man, and just, of course you can see the covers on there, but it's just, to me, that's going to be something the future generations won't have. You'll have those retro places. There's a place up in Seattle that is just like, they got a catalog of like 5,000 VHSs, and they're packed. They sell and rent constantly. You're going to have those nostalgic people that still want that, and it'll be around. But last year, the production of the VCR was done for. They no longer produce those. So what's out there is all that's left. And eventually it's going to be the same thing with DVD, because Blu-ray's becoming so much cheaper now, and you got 4K coming. It's going to keep migrating. DVD will be gone. We'll just have Blu-ray. And with the rise of digital streaming, I think it's like, Demolition Man. Eventually we're going to see a Taco Bell that serves, fresco food and no tacos. Right. And it's going to bum me out, at some point. But seeing the change is interesting. There's perks to it, but I don't know. It's fun. But
it obviously it gets better, I think. I'm 57 years old. When I'm a kid, I've got rabbit ears and 4 channels. That's all I got. And then next door neighbor, his dad's a bank president, and he brings this thing called a VCR home. We flip out. What is this? And
was it the VCR or was it the Beta?
No, it was the VCR? He brought the VCR.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, much of a time lapse. And then cable comes along, and then it just progresses up and up and up. And, what comes after digital streaming? What are they going to come up with next? And each generation, you see all these changes. But right now, we're in the middle of the digital streaming, and it's not got to its fullness yet, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
And so when it does, then something else going to come along, and it's going to be good. You just have to adapt with the changes.
Yeah. I think my only complaint is as long as because it's so easy to, like I know when it comes to being here at the house with the kids, to not just be like, okay, we got this, me and Sarah's got to cook dinner or whatever. I'll just throw on the TV because we got all the digital streaming services. It's hard not to say, okay, go play outside, because they got access to everything right there. That's something we deal with. And it's like, okay, especially with the girls, they, like our daughters, and I don't know if any of your all's kids are the same way, they like to learn. So they'll use digital streaming channels or stations to learn about artwork or drawing and stuff like that. And so we're okay with that, as long as they don't spend all their time on it because they want to, because it's so easy to access. The boys, it's Ultraman and Power Rangers, it's like that all day long, and which is fine. I love them having the heroes, but man, it's like, go play, go do something different. It's not getting too sucked into it because it is so easy now. Not that it's a bad thing, but it is. It's a click of a button, and you've got the whole world right there of movies, TV, at your fingertips. So I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I'm interested to see where it goes. I think Disney's going to monopolize the market next year, or you'll see it start. I mean, because they already own so much when it comes to TV and movie companies now that it's going to be huge. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think it'll be good. So, anything else on this streaming?
That's it.
Y'all let us know. Let us know what your all's favorite Disney or video streaming services are. What would you pick, Mark? What would your favorite? What's out there now? What's your favorite streaming service?
Man, it's probably going to be Netflix. I have Hulu and Netflix. There's some good TV series out there because I do work nights and I miss a lot of stuff. Hulu's pretty good for me because I can catch up on Last Man Standing and the different shows that are out there. But I think movie wise, documentary wise, original wise, Netflix originals, I think that's where it's right now. Netflix is where it's at. I've used Crackle.
Crackle's cool. It's for a free one, especially.
Yeah. And so there's on occasion, but I think Netflix is definitely number one for me right now.
That one, I think, I mean, it's hard for me because I've got Plex.
Yeah.
For those listening, if you've never heard of Plex, because I know we've talked about it on different main episodes and even the monster movie Stompdowns, Plex is pretty much your own version of Netflix. So you can take your video TV collection that you own, put it to digital format, and as long as you've got a computer that will run it or a server that will run it, like I've got a rack-mountable server with 2 terabytes of hard drive space that runs 24/7. It never goes off. The only time it goes off is once a month for me to do an update or just, cleaning. And it acts just like Netflix. I pull it up on my phone, our tablets. We've got it on our TV. I've got, Mark, you have it.
Yeah, I use it at home.
And he lives somewhere different. Ruben, who's on the Monster Stompdown with us, he's in Texas. He has access to the Plex. Yeah. So it's the same concept. It's just your own personal one. That's the one we probably honestly use the most, only because the library is so big. Of movies and shows that I have, plus the things that we buy and get is what we want to watch, and we just put it there. So it's all easy access. It's like, oh, I want to watch something I want to watch. Well, we already own this. We'll pick it on Plex. Right. But I think outside from that, because that is what gets used the most, it would be tough for me to decide between right now Netflix. I mean, Netflix probably would be still. I mean, movie selection, I think I've seen kind of gone down in quality a little bit, but a lot of it's because they're getting movies pulled from them because of Disney, with what's going on. Right. So, but it's pretty close between it and DC Universe.
I haven't been able to see anything on DC Universe yet. And
I think experience-wise, DC Universe may be the best experience of a digital streaming service there is. For those who don't have it, it's like $8 a month, but for those who don't have it, you get obviously your movies. They got Batman movies on there, the animated films, Justice League. You have access to all of that. You've got access to the TV shows, the Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, all of those episodes. You've got the Batman series, Super Friends, Super Friends with Batman and the Justice League and stuff. And Young Justice, all these new shows. Then the live action series they're doing, like Titans, and they're going to do I think a Harley Quinn show, Swamp Thing. So you've got all this movies and shows going on, which is great, and you've got the access to everything there. But what I think is even better is you've got original shows. There's I can't remember the name of the show because I don't also watch it much because I watch Titans most of the time, where it's kind of like a talk show, a news show about DC. Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn, or Harley Smith is on there. She's a host on that sometimes, and that's really cool because it's fresh, and they talk about new things that's coming up in the comic world. So that's, a cool talk show, news show, kind of like Attack of the Show on G4 back in the day, similar to that, but for DC. But not only that, you also have access to comic books. They put on digital comics, classic big stories of all kinds of characters. Where they did a whole section when Titans first came out. I think the first week was all about Robin. So they had like Death in the Family, that whole story arc you could read right there on your TV in digital comic book format, and other classic Superman stories and Batman and Green Lantern. And then they got spotlights on all these heroes that you can pull up. There's so many cool different things other than just movies and shows, that it's just an experience that no one else has right now. And I think it's really, really, really cool. So, I mean, even though I'm a much bigger Marvel fan, if Disney wants to keep Marvel going digitally, they really need to look at what DC's doing right now, I think, because the DC Universe is the most unique digital streaming experience you can get by anybody.
I'm the DC fan, over Marvel. My only drawback right now with DC Universe is I can't get it on my TV.
Because it's so limited.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm kind of waiting it out and see, I've got a smart TV, it gets updates, or I may need to go Roku.
With us, we picked up the Roku TV and it's access there. So, that is one thing with them right now is where it's still so new and they don't have the budget because it's all them. I mean, like Netflix or Disney to do all the different outlets. Yeah, it is kind of limited, but I mean, anyone who can pick it up, man, it's phenomenal. It's the most interesting. I think probably the freshest digital streaming service there is right now by a long shot. It's really cool. Really cool. So, all right. So before we move into topic 2, something else we're going to continue on is the jukebox. We will be doing the newsreel and the jukebox every episode. And for the jukebox tonight, it was difficult. I knew I wanted to pick a fresh band that I like listening to, and for those of you who have been listening to jukebox, I mean, I only listen to positive music, mainly Christian bands, but I mean positive music especially. I choose not to listen to anything negative because I do believe what's the old saying, everyone's mom used to tell you this, garbage in, garbage out, you know what I mean? I like keeping positive things in me, so I'm always in a positive mood. And it definitely works. So even though sometimes people may listen to some of the music like Wage War, it's like, is this positive? All that screaming? Yes, it is. It's just my taste of it. But I wanted to find a band that was a lot of fun to mix things up, and I really knew I wanted to play a song by Beartooth. Beartooth, for those who haven't heard them, man, I don't know how to explain this band other than probably, I mean, if it's like they took a little bit out of classic rock, took a little bit out of like punk rock, early 2000s pop punk like Simple Plan, to metal like Avenged Sevenfold or Wage. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, they're definitely rock and metal, but they are just absolutely, they're fun. They're fun rock and roll. And I don't know how else to explain it other than that. They're just an absolute blast. So it was torn what song I was going to pick. It's definitely off the new record. They just dropped a new record not too long ago called Disease, which is an amazing album, top to bottom, so much fun. The song that I decided, even though Disease is the current single, y'all please go check it out. I wanted to play something a little bit different, and it's a song there's called Enemy, which is just an absolute blast. It is rocking. It's in your face. It's got the most metal bridge ever, one of the most amazing melodies for a chorus. It's just great. It's Beartooth. They're fun. They're amazing to see live, and enjoy it. Check it out. Here you go. Beartooth with the song Enemy.
Can't make a sound.
And that is Beartooth with the song Enemy. Again, check those guys out. I mean, you obviously heard that. I know you loved it. Go pick up any record from these dudes. I promise you will not be disappointed by them. So, hopefully you enjoyed it. Moving on to topic 2. This one, man, there could be a lot of trash talk here on this next topic, and I'm not mean to be, but we're going to discuss Hollywood remakes. Something that people love and hate, or hate and love. I don't know. This is going to be a little tricky because, at least for me, I don't. There are some times when remakes happen where I'm like, what in the world are you thinking? Why remake that film? There's absolutely no point. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, I can think of classic films. One great one, I think, in my opinion, is not the newer The Thing, which they changed and decided was not a remake, it's reimagining because it takes place before John Carpenter's. But John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982, to me, is one of the greatest horror films of all time. I mean, and special effects wise, holds up to today. Rob Bottin's special effects on that, truly amazing. But I remember looking at that as a remake. You look at The Thing from Another World, the original one, where even you had a huge actor, James Arness, for the first time and only time, played a monster in a movie. You know, I mean, he's not a monster character like Boris Karloff or Bela Lugosi. He's a great character actor from back in the 30s, you know, or the 40s and 50s. Great actor. I mean, he's won Academy Awards and stuff, but to see him in a monster suit play a giant vegetable pretty much, which is a great movie. The Thing from Another World was absolutely awesome, other than the fact that they're always closing doors. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for those who have not seen the original one, it's a great film. Very, very good. They are always closing doors. I don't know how they managed to do it, but I'm pretty sure there's like 56 doors that close in that movie. But so anyways, they remade it in the 80s with John Carpenter's. That's one of those few instances where that remake, I think, was better than the original drastically. But something happened around the late 90s, early 2000s, where remakes became like this huge fad. Especially when it comes to horror movies. Horror movies get remade more than anything else, but Hollywood really stepped into this. We're going to remake all these movies. And, of course, you know, horror movies getting the most. I mean, you saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween.
The Fly.
Yeah. Well, man, I don't know, though. That's an old remake that was really, really good. That genre definitely gets hit the most, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the budgets, you know, could be done such smaller budgets to do a remake, but the horror genre definitely gets remade more than any other genre. But then you've got some that still get remade, or as they say now, reimagined. You look at Equalizer. For those who don't know, the Equalizer films with Denzel Washington, done by Antoine Fuqua, I can't think of his name. That's based off of an 80s TV series. Do you remember that series?
Yes, I do.
And so, I mean, that's a Hollywood remake of a show, and you've got those, you know. To me, that's a little more of a reimagining, I guess, like they say. Really good, but I think for the most part, when Hollywood remakes a movie, to me, they pick movies that don't need to be remade, and they tend to flop hardcore. And there's instances where it's differences. I mean, you look at Disney right now with their live-action remakes. I can see, because, I mean, all their it's different with them. I think they kind of got it down, because if you look at Jungle Book, how do you remake Jungle Book? Don't remake Jungle Book. Jungle Book was great, but they went completely different, and it was awesome. I mean, Bill Murray as Baloo was such a good choice. You know, Christopher Walken as King Louie. That movie ended up being really, really good. But I think it's a little different for them because they're remaking a cartoon into a live action. And then where you've got the ones like Mary Poppins, don't you dare remake Mary Poppins. They're bringing one out, but it's a sequel. Smart thinking. You know what I mean? I think they've kind of got it down. They know what not to screw up. But Hollywood tends to screw things up pretty easily. And it happens a lot, again, in the horror films. I mean, that's probably where you find the most remakes and the most bombs. I mean, you look at My Bloody Valentine. That was, you know, the original was great. This remake was terrible. You look at Nightmare on Elm Street's another one. That was a love or hate. People loved the original one, hated the remake. Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Well, I think you, and I obviously I'm not sure. I mean, I think Hollywood looks like, or I would look at it as, I'm not going to remake something that bombed 50 years ago, because I don't know that I'm going to get anybody in the theater seats.
Right.
Yeah. But if I take a decent to great movie that was 50 years ago and remake it, or 20 years ago or whatever, my chances of making $1 are going to be a whole lot better, even though I'm taking the risk of making a movie that's worse than the original.
True. Well, I mean, look at, and that's a good way to think of it. There's some that are hit and miss. I mean, look at, you got Total Recall was one. The original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Colin Farrell did remake. Not good. I think that was a major misfire, because one big part, in my opinion, was you didn't have Michael Ironside. And I'm sorry, but Michael Ironside is the best villain ever. I mean, Highlander 2, The Quickening. The only reason why that movie was any good was because of Michael Ironside, in my opinion. But you look at the movies, I mean, you do have some good ones. The Italian Job was one. I mean, I don't know if you remember the old Italian Job it was remade with Mark Wahlberg in the early 2000s. That was a pretty decent one. You've got ones like the new, I don't know if I'd call the new Planet of the Apes movies remakes, more so as what they'd say reimagining or retelling. Because you never really got Caesar's story in the old Planet of the Apes movies. He was the one they talked about. You had Cornelius,
yes.
His son, who is, at the end of the Planet of the Apes, the new trilogy. But it really revolved around Cornelius at that time. So that was good. But I mean, there's some, I mean, again, it's a hit and miss. There's some really, really good ones. Sometimes I'm like, what are you thinking? One that I'm thinking of right now, Big Trouble in Little China. That's, why remake that movie? Yeah. There's certain movies where I'm like, that this is off limits. I think John McTiernan's films are off limits. So you're looking at Die Hard, Predator. The sequels, one thing. Do not remake a movie by John McTiernan. Right. John Hughes. Well, of course, any of the, John Hughes flicks, Pretty in Pink, Weird Science, any of his movies, don't remake those movies because they are flawless. Don't touch this. John Carpenter's another one. Escape from New York. They've been trying to remake it for a while. Big Trouble in Little China. The Thing, which they should have showed you. Yes, they did a prequel with Mary Elizabeth Winstead a few years back, 2011, I think. Did terrible. Absolutely terrible movie. Did not like it whatsoever. So I think there's certain directors or movies that you just don't do. That's kind of like, okay, we should really say this is off limits. One thing Hollywood loved to do too was remake Japanese films. The Ring movie or The Grudge, man, did stellar over in Japan. Let's bring it over here. Now they do good over here, actually. The Ring was a big success. So was the Grudge movies. But if you watch it compared to the original Japanese, I think it was very not as good. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo films, the same way. They weren't as bad. Like the one with Daniel Craig was pretty decent. But it's one of those ones where it's like, why do that? What's the, I can get it, but sometimes I'm like, man, I feel like, are you out of ideas that you've got to remake something that was stellar before to try and make a buck, or to try and say, okay, we can do better now, when 9 times out of 10, we definitely didn't do better that time around. No.
A classic movie is True Grit.
Oh man, yeah.
They just trashed it. When they
dude, I've not watched the remake. Won't do it.
Yeah,
I read the reviews.
I did. It's bad.
No, we can't do it. You do. That's another one too. You don't remake the dude.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's just you're trying to do over John Wayne. You just can't do it.
No,
you can't.
You cannot. You can't outact or outperform or redo the most manliest man in movie history. Clint Eastwood's bad, yes, but John Wayne, he's the dude, man. Yeah. That dude was the man. You can't do it. So I wouldn't watch it. Clash of the Titans is one. That one is a little different. Like, I did not. The original Clash of Titans was phenomenal. especially when you, I mean, part of it was having, you know, Ray Harryhausen's crew with the stop motion animation was still so big, was such a good movie and such a great telling of those mythological characters and Perseus, that when I found out they were doing Clash of the Titans, the remake, I'm like, please don't just make it a special effects extravaganza and just ruin the story. They pretty much did.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Exactly.
it really bummed me out.
Exactly.
Like, especially when you're like, oh, Liam Neeson's going to play Zeus? Yes. And he was terrible as Zeus. But now they redeemed themselves because then they did the sequel, Wrath of the Titans, which was amazing. How did they, I mean, Clash was I didn't like it. Terrible. Wrath, awesome. Absolutely awesome. Like, I feel like they realized, oh man, we really screwed Clash of the Titans up. We need to make it better and redeem ourselves, and they did completely. I mean, even Liam Neeson as Zeus, Ralph Fiennes' return as Hades, they were so much better the second time around.
I think in Clash of the Titans, because it was so good the first time around, that brought people out to see it when they remade it with the stars they had in it, and that made it popular. Where you could make Wrath of the Titans.
True.
You know, because I think if it just by itself, if it was an original movie, Clash of the Titans, I don't think it had done as well. But because it was a remake, got
that
people out.
You already had. That's one of those things too.
Yeah.
I can see it too. People, hey, because it is this, I'm gonna give it a chance.
Yeah.
I am gonna see it. There's ones where you look at too when it comes to remakes that I really think they just know better not to touch. It's like, because look at The Crow. You know what I mean? Alex Proyas' original The Crow's comic book hero Eric Draven, which most people know the story of. He gets killed, gets brought back to seek vengeance, and with this Crow by Eric Obar, who wrote the comic books. In the 90s, Alex Proyas brought The Crow to film with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, which many people can argue is one of the best comic adaptations ever. It's not, I mean, it's pretty far actually from the comic book adaptation itself, but it's so good. I mean, it was amazing. Then you throw on the fact that Brandon died, during the filming, right, which made it a league of its own type film. But his performance, I mean, that's the best performance of his career. The movie is pretty much flawless top to bottom for what it is. It's so good that they've made sequels, but they've been trying to do a remake for like the last 10 years, and it just will not get off the ground. Because I think they realize, I mean, even, Barr, who did the original comic, stepped in and said, we're going to have to just make this completely different. We're going to have to make it absolutely 100% just like the comic books, or not do it at all, because it's going to get compared to Brandon's film. So you can't remake that movie. Right. I think that's too much of a struggle. Another one being Jaws. You've had sequels that all got worse and worse and worse, but you've had other shark movies, Deep Blue Sea, the most recent, The Meg.
Yes.
You've got Shark Attack and all the B. I mean, the shark movies are probably one of the biggest B movie franchises there are. There's so many lower budget shark movie horror films, especially out there, but there's never been another Jaws remake,
right?
Because you're not going to top that movie.
No.
Especially that one. I mean, you look at that one, that was the first summer blockbuster ever.
And pretty much shook a nation.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wanted to get in the water.
No, we're not having it. And you got some other big flops too. Ghost in the Shell. Wow. I mean, tanked. I think it made $15 million maybe. Yeah. And it had like an $80 million budget. Phenomenal, flawless animated film. Ghost in the Shell was. I mean, to a T. Oh, I mean, that's almost as good as Akira, in my opinion. And then to do a live action remake, Akira's top.
Yeah,
there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing going to top Akira when it comes to animated film. Mark gave me a dirty look there for a second. It's like, wait, slow down here. But Ghost in the Shell is one of those. I mean, if you put a top tier of animated films, Ghost in the Shell is up there.
Oh yes. I like it. I like the animated. But yeah, Akira, no, that's
no, you don't. Yeah, Akira is
completely different level than everybody else.
Nothing comes even close. So it's interesting. I mean, because to me, sometimes I feel like whatever company it is. Well, I mean, and again, horror gets hit the most. I mean, you look at Child's Play. We've got a remake coming next year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? it's going to bomb. I mean, because you got a TV series coming at the same time. They're changing the name. He's not a good guy doll in the movie anymore. He's a buddy doll, and whatever. It's pointless. It's pointless. Kind of like the Grinch too. I mean, Matt argued back and forth about it. I mean, you had the original Grinch cartoon, Dr. Seuss's the old cartoon, which is great and will always be the classic. Okay. Then they remake it with Jim Carrey's. Phenomenal. I mean, absolutely amazing. That was a phenomenal remake. And then they're going to do another one. Why remake a remake of an original film? Yeah. No, you're just cash cowing. It's all it is, Then they said, Matt, I was talking to Matt, and he said that he's not even really very Grinch-y, in the movie. Not super, I hate Christmas raw, and I'm like, well, that's kind of...
I watched the trailer. I didn't like it. It was just done.
Yeah. So Matt, when you listen, again, no point for the new Grinch film because Jim Carrey killed it, and the original one was awesome. Yeah. So you got tons of them. There's some that I think sometimes you look at some movies, and it would be awesome to see a remake. Well, I think of ones like, Death Wish with Bruce Willis. When I first saw that, I was like, no, you're not going to top Charles Bronson. That original one, that was a big controversial film too when it came out, and it really stated something. You've got the superhero vigilantes, but to take a normal everyday guy to do what he did and how Bronson sold it on screen to say, I want to remake that. No, there's no way. But I think they were smart. They're going, well, if we can, how can we make sure we get somebody as good as Bronson? John McClane. Come on. Bruce Willis. There's no one else that's going to be able to do it.
Exactly.
And they did extremely well with that. I think what helped them with that one was making sure, yes, we know we're remaking the film. And this is where I think the remakes that do make it, the remakes that do succeed and don't tank, are the ones who adapt the way they need to. They severely adapted in the new Death Wish with cell phones. That was that social media concept, because when he goes looking for the people who had killed his wife and attacked his daughter, and he's out in the street and shoots that first guy, and they catch him in the hood on the video, and then that's just skyrockets. Then you got Man Cow in the mornings talking about it on the movie.
Right.
They didn't have that in the original one. But they knew that this was something that would put that original story and movie in terms today with today's audiences and make it fresh, but a good remake. And I think that's why it succeeded.
Yes.
Yes. The same thing with, you look at the Planet of the Apes films, more retelling, than a remake, but there was so much freshness to it that I think that's what succeeds. When you go back to John Carpenter's The Thing, again, I think it's what... at the time in the 80s especially, where practical effects were so huge, especially when you got the likes of Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and those guys making movies like The Howling and stuff where, special effects were just mind-boggling. John knew that and wanted to really push the boundaries because story-wise it's not very different. It's pretty much the same thing as The Thing from Another World. Almost to a T, except less closing doors. But they really pushed the aspect of it, of adding the trust in to where you didn't know who it really was, because he can take any form and any shape, because they were able to do that because of special effects finally, that made that movie so much better than the original one.
Oh, yeah.
You get those sometimes, and sometimes you don't, The other one I think of is, Bram Stoker's Dracula. When you look at the 31 film, was a great, it still is a classic film. But then you look at all the different ones that came from then on. Even from Universal, Son of Dracula and whatever, and the 70s horror films with Christopher Lee, and which they were good, but no one could touch Dracula, until Bram Stoker's came out, and it was Wolfgang Peterson, I think, did that one. I can't remember if that was him or not. I think it was.
Just looking at it.
They took that and made it so much more of a. It's more of a dramatic noir type movie. It's expert storytelling is what they did. They took a great story and turn it into expert storytelling. It was a performance film more than anything else, because when you look at it, there's not a whole lot of special effects that's really in the movie, but they really remade that going, it's almost like watching a Broadway film or a Broadway play on film. So I think that's what made that movie succeed. Francis Ford Coppola, wasn't Wolfgang Peterson, it was Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. Made that one so good is the storytelling of that one and the vibe of that one. They really focused on the performance to sell it, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And you got those two, like Old Boy, a Korean film when it came out, unbelievable. I mean, that's one of the most. There's that the hallway fight scene in Old Boy with the hammer was so impactful for cinematographers and directors and just movie people in general. You see it everywhere. The hallway fight scene in Daredevil is exactly that. It's the hallway fight scene from Old Boy. Have you noticed that? Remember from season 1 when he goes to save the kid in Daredevil, and the Russians got him or whatever, and he goes in. It's all one camera whole time. That happened in Old Boy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it was the same thing because it was so big. Well, then you got someone like Spike Lee. He's like, oh, I'm gonna remake Old Boy. We're gonna put what's his name? Played Thanos. And Jonah Hex, can't think of his name. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We're gonna make him Josh Brolin. We're gonna put him in the movie, and it was terrible, horrible movie. It was so bad, shouldn't have been remade. But you got something really good. I mean, you look at Godzilla, not the '98 one. That was terrible. That's probably that's the epitome of bad remakes right there. The '98 Godzilla film. If you want to know how not to screw a film up, throw that one on. That'll tell you right there. But you look at the 2014 one, a reimagining, retelling, hugely successful film, spawned more movies. Let the Right One In and Let Me In. That's another one. Let the Right One In, to me, I think is still better. The original, if no one's ever seen that movie, it's a friendship story between this young boy who's bullied at school and this young girl who happens to be a vampire who moves into the apartment next door to him. And they communicate through the wall, like knocking on the wall, and become best friends. And he ends up falling in love with her, and it's a really good movie. Of course, now it being Swedish, it's very drawn out and slow paced, which builds to an amazing climax of a film. The American remake, which was really, really good, actually, I think was great. The pacing's, it's an American film, so the pacing's a lot faster and stuff. It just didn't, the climax in the film was not as amazing as the original version, but it still was pretty good film. I thought it was good. There's some good ones, there's some terrible ones. Flatliners. I heard the new one was not good,
I did not see it.
I won't even watch it.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Another good one right there.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep.
With Johnny Depp. I thought they did pretty good. I enjoyed Charlie and the Chocolate Factory probably about as much as I did Willy Wonka.
I did not.
But I'm kind of a Johnny Depp fan too, so I mean that made a difference. There's a bunch out there.
You know what did it for me for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Between the original one, the Blueberry Girl. I remember watching the original one as a kid, and when she blows up and there's a blueberry, my thoughts was the two things. Where she was and she kept floating up, there was those fans at the top. My thought was, she's going to continue to expand, and this child is going to die. Or she's going to float up to those fans, and this child is going to die. Like, you're at a chocolate factory and killing children. Like, that was my thought as a child seeing that, and then you didn't have that in the new one,
right?
So it didn't impact me the same way. I mean, that was another one that was to me, it was, I don't know. People loved it. I didn't. I wasn't a big fan of that one.
One of my probably favorite remakes, you would say, I don't know, from animated to live action, Lord of the Rings.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that's tough though. No, I can't agree with that one. Now I'm thinking about it, because I go back to that one. Which I mean, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's a good example. I think because Lord of the Rings won so many Academy Awards.
Right.
Now I know a lot of listeners might get mad at me for this. I don't like the Lord of the Rings films, the live action ones. I like the Hobbit films; they were great. I did not like Lord of the Rings because they walk. It's 3 films of walking and more walking. And then the trees walk. It's just it was so long and boring. I don't know how he did it. But then when you look at the old one, the animated one, that's Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah.
Ralph Bakshi was in a league of his own when it comes to animated styles, especially. You introduced me to him in Wizards.
Right.
Yeah, with Wizards. And so his unique style to me, when I watched Wizards and then see The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings, was so unique, and it drew you in just watching it, that even though it's older, to me that film was more captivating to look at than Peter Jackson's. If that makes sense to me. Now, and I won't take away from the Lord of the Rings films, because clearly they were phenomenal. They did billions of dollars. They're huge. So yeah, that's successful from animated to live action, especially. I think The Hobbit was better in those, but I think only because, again, Ralph Bakshi haven't done the originals. That's very hard to top. You look at other people that tried to be Ralph Bakshi. Rock and Roll, Fire and Ice. It's like, man, Bakski's the man. Let's be like him. Yeah. And while those were great films, they just never did touch anything that Bakshi did, and by a long shot. There's some good ones. There's some ones that I just, it's a fad that I wish they didn't do as much. Again, you look at, I think it ruins things sometimes. You look at like the Rob Zombie's Halloweens, to me, especially in the age of what it was, and I don't watch horror film. I didn't even see the new Halloween because I just don't really watch horror films anymore. It really ruined a lot, in my opinion, when it comes to that genre. Because when you look back at the original one, now he did do a throwback in the remake that I did like, in the woods with the little boy scene where everything happens with a tree in front of it or something. You knew what was happening, but you couldn't see it. That's what made John Carpenter's original so good. Michael was always in the shadows, or he was doing this to attacking this person behind a door, or off screen. It was that the way he filmed that, left it in your mind, didn't make it so brutal and bloody on screen. Excuse me. that made it terrifying. When they remade that, they completely trashed it, in my opinion. I did not like the remake, because then it just got too much like most horror movies. It's just like, oh, well, let's just push the boundaries and make it more graphically violent, and just, you didn't need that. So to me, that ruined the legacy of what John started.
Right.
Sometimes I think that people can go overboard with things that you just don't need to do. There are ones that think, a good idea. TV series Lost in Space. It's been long enough. The original series was phenomenal. I loved watching that show as a kid. And I wasn't sure, even like watching the first 2 episodes of it when it came out on Netflix, I was like, there was so much of me going, as my inner child going, no, this was stupid. This was pointless. They should not have because that was I loved that show as a kid. But I kept going, I'm like, man, this is great, and it was really, really good.
I was disappointed in the movie.
Oh no, yeah, the movie was so bad.
Yeah, but
I'm a fan of Joey. I remember watching that, and it cracked me up because I'm on Friends. He's an actor that can't act. Matt plays who plays Joey. When you see him in Lost in Space, I'm like, holy crap, is he really playing Joey, or is he just being himself? Because he really can't act. Like, I didn't know if Joey was a real life character or not there for a moment. I wasn't a fan of that one at all.
Not at all.
I totally forgot about that.
Now, the Stephen King's The It.
See, now that's one of those.
I'm the original. I'm partial to it. I think I think they were able to tell the story, start to finish, in one movie.
Well, yeah, because you've got. It was made for TV, and there's a huge difference there with those two. Because to me, those two I think are two different animals in itself. Because on any normal occasion, I would probably call the new one a remake of that one. But because the TV version with Tim Curry was so I'll explain it like this: the Tim Curry version TV version that we originally seen was more like Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. The skeleton was there, but there was so much different from the book. I mean, drastically different in that than it was actually in the book, that it was just kind of more of a... I mean, it was Stephen King's It, but it was missing a lot, and a lot was changed. Just like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which was a great movie, and honestly, I think it's better than the book, but there was so much different in his version of the film than it was in the actual book that it was almost its own creature. So with Tim Curry's It movie, the made-for-TV one, versus the new one that came out by Andrew Machete, or whatever his name is, it's too different. You know what I mean? Curry's version is a imagining of the book, where the new one is an almost exact representation of the book. So I wouldn't call the new one a remake of the original Tim Curry film. I would just call it the first true It movie. That makes sense. Yeah. Because it is hard to put those two together, because Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise will forever be with me. You know what I mean? I remember watching that as a kid, and like, oh man, the beep beep Richie, like that's still, I will say that randomly. You know what I mean? Just right. You know, one day a week, we'll be like, oh, I'll just start saying beep beep Richie, because that'll never get out of my head. Now, Bill Skarsgård will never be as good as Tim Curry in the aspect of how Tim Curry played it. But Tim Curry's will never be as good as Bill Skarsgård in the aspect that he played it, because Bill's Pennywise was, to me, I think, more horrifying and scary. Plus, you had things that were missing from the book, you know what I mean, from the original one. So it's too different to me to put that as a remake. If that makes sense.
Gotcha. I got you.
Because, man, and that's hard, too, because Tim Curry's is just, man.
I just loved it, so...
And
I hadn't thought about The Shining until you just you brought that up there with that remake. But why would you even remake?
Oh, there was just because there was that made-for-TV one that came out after Kubrick's. Yeah, that's one you shouldn't have remade. Yeah. You know, I mean, I understand that The Shining that Kubrick did was very different. No, I mean, it was different. I mean, it was a lot different from it and the book. But it was so good. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care. He fixed what Stephen King got wrong, you know, in my opinion. Right. And every Stephen King fan is going to throw their books at me now for saying that. But, I mean, because it's so difficult to make a book an exact film adaptation. It's so difficult. I mean, you look at The Meg that just came out. It's drastically different than the book. Even Peter Benchley's Jaws. For those who've seen Jaws but never read the book, go pick up the book. You can get it for like $1 at a used bookstore. There's a lot different between the book and the movie. Like the Kessner kid scene in the movie, they originally supposedly shot that scene like they did in the book, and the MPA was like, you will not get anything less than like an R, maybe even an X or an NC-17, because it's brutal in the book. I mean, it's scary in the book.
I haven't read the book.
Oh man, the book is so good. So we'll always have them. They'll always be there. I wish they weren't always there unless I think they were needed. You know what I mean? Sometimes, man, they knock it out of the park and it's great. More times than not, they barely skim by and make a decent film, or they completely bomb it, in my opinion, when it comes to Hollywood remakes. What do you think overall?
And I agree, with you on that. And a lot of times you see them come in bunches, and you have to think, have you ran out of material out there? And that's why we're coming back, because you got to make your money. You got to keep the studios going. Yeah. And so I think sometimes they're grasping for straws, and don't need to, and I think the originals stand on their own, don't need a remake. No. But then there's some out there that do. And so it's a hit and miss. And I reckon we just sit back and pick which ones we want to check out. And
I think I want your opinion on too. A movie that needs to be remade, Remo Williams.
Oh, I don't know, man. That was such a great movie.
It was great.
Such a great movie.
I love, for those who have never seen Remo Williams, what was it? What was I don't remember what the subtitle was. Remo Williams came out. Fred Ward played Remo. It was actually based off a series of books called The Destroyer. Back in the day, and it was supposed to be the American James Bond. the movie's great. Like that guy who they got to play the.
I'm trying to think of who he is,
man. Chun. You got to play Chun, Master Chun. Oh my gosh, he was hilarious. Yeah. It was a great movie, but I think enough time's passed, and there's some actors out there right now that could really, like, you could totally redo Remo Williams and put Jackie Chan as Master. No. As funny as he was, yeah, you could really do Jackie Chan, but I think Jet Li would be great to see in that role and make him comedic in that. You know, have Jet out stretch his boundaries.
I don't know that I had ever seen Jet Li do anything
comedic.
Yeah.
No, you haven't. So that would make it awesome. You know what I mean? Let him do that. Never, just like Karate Kid. That's another remake, man, where people either love or hate. I think that was phenomenal because it was so different. Like,
you like the remake?
I love them both, but I love the remake.
Oh yeah, I thought the remake was great.
Oh man, to me, what really did it was taking him to China really helped. You know what I mean? Where Ralph Macchio just moved down the street, to another city.
I think the bad thing with Macchio was he wasn't macho enough.
No, he wasn't. Jaden could kick Ralph's rear end, no questions.
He filled that out perfectly.
To me, what really made the original Karate Kid wasn't Ralph's character so much as it was Mr. Miyagi.
Right.
Mr. Miyagi really was what made Karate Kid for me. So, and I think for a lot of people too, when you really boil it down to it. So when you look at the new Karate Kid with Jackie Chan, you're looking at Jackie Chan because you want to look at Mr. Miyagi. You know what I mean? So, how do you compare the two? And to me, what really did it was the car. When he's beating that car up. When he's fixing the car up at his house.
Yeah.
And then the scene where he beats it down and you see him cry. I've never seen him act like that.
Yeah, that was a side of Jackie Chan that I had never
was unbelievable. I was like, holy crap, he needs to win an award for this. Yeah. He was so good. That right there sold the whole movie for me. Just made it absolutely unbelievable. And to me, having those kids and moving to China was really the only way you could have done it. But with Jaden's age and having the other kids, they're much younger than Ralph and them in the original one. You know what I mean? They're much. Ralph and them's teenagers, 17, that age. Jaden's like 12, you know what I mean? And then all these other kids are the same age. Well, you're not going to find some kids in America fighting like that, you know? So you got to go to China. They did so good with that. Even the scene when he first saves Jaden, Jackie does, and the kids attack him, he never once hits any of those kids. He uses the kids to hit the kids or defer them,
Right.
It was done so well. To me, that was really, really good. I don't even remember where we got started in that one from. Where we came from, I don't remember. Anyway,
it was good, though.
Yeah, that's how good, the Karate Kid remake was. Wow, totally, I don't even remember, so we'll move on from that one. So, Remo Williams. That's what it was. Okay, so
Jackie Chan.
Back to this. Jet Li would be great to see in a role that's different for him. Yeah. I think we're really good. Then you've got, I think, you need somebody who can pull off the action star, be comedic when he needs to be, serious, can really get into it. Ryan Reynolds, I think, would be great.
Yeah,
perfect for the role. So, and oh man, what's his name? The black guy he doesn't have the hand. You know what I'm talking about from the movie. The guy that
what is his name?
I can't remember his name, but the guy who actually hires him onto the program.
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson, man.
Oh yeah,
it would be perfect because him and Ryan Reynolds are great. They're together in The Hitman's Bodyguard. Oh man, that
would be good.
Some of the best chemistry. So there you go, Hollywood. There's your next Hollywood remake. Remo Williams will be so good. So. All right. Anything else on that one?
No, sir.
So there's a lot of them out there. I think we could talk. Again, thank you guys for listening. The remakes, hit us up on Facebook. What were some remakes that you liked? Some that you hated? Let us know because there's plenty that we love and we hate, and we love to talk to you about them. So, again, thank you so much for listening and continuing with us. We've got a big month in store for you. Not only the next big episode we've got coming up is the next monster movie Stompdown with Mark, in which we Ruben comes back with us and we finish out the Gamera trilogy with what's arguably the greatest Jonathan Monster movie of all time to a lot of people. We'll wait and see because it is unbelievable. I'm partial to Gamera too, but
And we know this.
Yeah, but Camera 3 broke some serious walls when it came out. So we got that one coming up next, and then the next episode for the main show is going to be all about, because we love Arrowverse when it comes to the SludgeCast, and a lot of the guests that show up on the show, the crossover events coming up here in a couple weeks, the 9th through the 11th, I think. So we're going to do a special pre-post episode all in one. We are going to talk about what we think about the crossover, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll come right back on the same episode and tell you what we thought after we watched it. So that's going to be a really cool, fun episode. And then we'll do an extra episode this month because it's the holiday season. We all love Christmas. I love the idea of Christmas. I cannot stand the driving around all day long. I mean, Matt, we're talking about that. It drives me crazy because it's like I get up at 7, start with the kids, go to your all's house, do Christmas, go to Sarah's mom's, do Christmas. I'm driving everywhere. By the time I'm back, I'm like, I don't want to see another gift for 2 months, but it is Christmas time, and we all love that season, so we've got a special Christmas episode coming up with for you guys this month as well, which we're going to talk about Christmas traditions and Christmas movies especially that we love to watch, and see what some of your all's favorite Christmas movies are. We're talking about what some of our favorite movies are. We plan on having a few people on for that show to really talk about Christmas, and we'll probably enjoy some Christmas food while we do it or something. But it's going to be a fun episode. So just stick with us on Facebook. Check out what's going on. Again, thank you guys so much. This is Sludge.
And Mark.
Y'all have a good night.
Will you